Is not the threat made in 2008 by every candidate and by Obama today a threat? All options are on the table. If Iran does not satisfy our criteria for its cooperation with the NPT, all options are on the table. And as he says, Obama said in his interview, that includes military options, but it's not just military options. It includes U.S. nuclear options. Against what? I have to underline this. Against an attack? No, against possession or getting close to possession, or in our eyes, closer than they should get to possession. In other words, a prevent a war attack. That is something beyond what he's described as the purposes here. In the same article, it says, consider the use of nuclear weapons only in extreme circumstances to defend the vital interests of the United States or its allies and partners. And then it goes on. It is in the U.S. interest and that of all other nations that the nearly 65-year record of nuclear non-use be extended forever. As I've been saying, there has been no 65-year record of non-use. NATO used it every year from its inception and is still using it despite the disappearance of the Warsaw Pact. NATO, under our pressure, has refused to go along with Germany's pressure some time ago, under Clinton actually, to adopt a no-first-use policy. And right now, Germany is among other nations who want all U.S. weapons off European soil. It's the U.S. that has been pressing for those weapons and maintaining a first-use threat. And as I say, that is a use. As President Reagan declared, the NPR goes on, a nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought. But threatened, that's another matter. And preparations to carry out the threat, even are necessary, even when those preparations involve backing up our first-use threats with the possibility of a disarming strike against the Soviet Union, lowering damage, limiting damage to the United States. That is the purpose and the only purpose of most of the 1,500 weapons we propose to maintain. The notion that this is on the path that will lead towards zero is simply false, in my opinion. As many people, a number who are close to this process have pointed out, very recently in an article I just read by Len Eden of Stanford University, you're reaching a floor which has been pointed out for years now, that you couldn't get below 1,500 weapons without changing the functions and the planning and the aims of U.S. nuclear weapons. That's a floor. And what are those functions? Deterrence of nuclear attack? No. Hitting a broad Soviet target, no, Russian target system. Command and control, missiles, bases, and troops. A tremendous number of the weapons go to troops as well as cities. All of those, in order to limit damage in the event of war by a preemptive attack or a first strike attack. That is the function which has been there since the beginning when I was looking at war plans and writing guidance for war plans in 1961, looking at them earlier than that. That was the main function of most of our weapons. And it remains true today. Quote, limiting damage limitation in the event of preemption or a first strike against the Soviet Union. Do you need 1,500 weapons for deterring nuclear attack? People say, not really. You don't really know. It doesn't seem like that's absurd. It has nothing to do. That has nothing to do with deterring attack. Herb York, first director of Livermore Labs, once wrote a very interesting paper for Livermore, nuclear weapons production design, saying, how many weapons do you need to deter nuclear attack? He said, let me go at it two different ways. He said, how many weapons do we need? He said, if deterrence is the problem, is what you need, ask yourself, how many weapons would it take to deter another country? Or put it this way, how many weapons would it take to deter the United States from attacking? Let me go back to the pairing of the new axis of evil, which only has two members now, Iraq having dropped out. North Korea, I say, in my opinion, is not under a very serious threat of nuclear attack from anybody, because they have the nuclear weapons, as the world can see, as Iran knows, as Saddam knew before he died, that he made a mistake to attack the United States or its forces before he had nuclear weapons. Iraq was attacked because it didn't have nuclear weapons, and Iran is under threat right now because it doesn't have them. How many would it take after going in here? Say very quickly. York said 1, 10, 100, but closer to 1 than 100. Closer to 1 than 100. We have 2,200 now on air trigger alert, point of the Soviet Union. We have some 6,000 or 7,000 on the shelf altogether. The Soviets likewise. That has simply nothing to do with deterring nuclear attack. What it has to do with, we can discuss more, I've used up my time. But I'm saying, in other words, that Obama continues to lead the world, showing them that even the richest country in the world has interests for which it has the right and even the necessity to defend those interests with first-hand threats of nuclear weapons. That's the example of the leadership they're showing to the rest of the world, and that's why proliferation is going to be very hard to stop.